Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. We've been doing the FlipNerd Podcast a little bit infrequently. By the way, by the time you're seeing this, we're actually coming up on our 10-year anniversary of the FlipNerd Podcast. I'm excited to have my buddy Gino here today. Literally 10 years and over 1,500 episodes we've done under the FlipNerd brand over the past 10 years. When I started this podcast, by the way, there were 6 real estate investing podcasts. I was the 6th real estate investing podcast, and now there's probably 6,000. And so a lot of them are good friends of mine, including Gino. Well, but excited to have you guys here, and excited to talk about transitioning from single family investing into multifamily. And we're going to talk a lot about, is now the right time to invest? A lot of people are running away scared. We have a different opinion on all that, which probably doesn't surprise you. Welcome to Real Estate Investing Secrets. We're all looking for freedom and the opportunity to live better, more fulfilling lives. But most of us were trained our entire lives to work for someone else and chase their dreams. How can we use real estate investing as a vehicle to achieve financial freedom? My life is dedicated to answering your real estate investing questions and helping you build an investing business that allows you to change your life and the world around you, and to enable you to turn your dreams of financial freedom into a reality. My name is Mike Hambright from FlipNerd.com, and your questions get answered here on the Real Estate Investing Secrets Show. Gino, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
Mike, 10 years. And I remember when you came out, I remember going on your website. I was sitting in the library up in New York. I was still doing my side hustle. It was 2014. I was trying to get on your show. And I'm like, man, I can't get on Mike Hambright. I can't get on his show. He didn't know me 10 years ago. But everyone listening, that's a testament. It doesn't happen overnight. 10 years goes by so quickly. So if you start buying real estate today, can you imagine how many units or how much net worth you will be able to accumulate in the next 10 years? You just need to have the commitment and the discipline to do it. So congratulations for 10 years, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I know, without stealing our thunder, I know that's one of the things we're going to talk about. I say this phrase all the time. You got to play the long game. And I want to kind of jump into, well, first I want you to introduce yourself a little bit, but I do want to talk about the idea of playing the long game, because that is how you make money in real estate, not the quick transactions. And you can make money that way, but the real wealth is made over the long term. But let's come back to that. Who is Gino Barbaro?
Well, Gino Barbaro was the transaction guy. Transactions pay the bills and equity makes you rich. And I'll give you a real quick 30-second overview. I had a restaurant business for over 20 years. That's what I did when I got out of college. It was a family business. I loved it until I didn't love it. I had made all the mistakes in real estate. When I met Jake in 2009, I couldn't fix and flip. I already had a job. So I was lucky in that respect. And I had immigrant parents that taught me the power of multiple units. I had the restaurant. My mom had her 3 apartments upstairs. She's getting paid every month from those apartments. When it snows at the end of the week, I ain't getting paid. She's doing something right and I'm not. And that always left an impression on me. And when I met Jake in 2009, we formed a really great relationship. We really had our goals and our visions, and what you said, that long-termism, the responsibility, the not get there itis, no shiny object. We decided multifamily. I had gone into other ventures. I said, Jake, you're the pharmaceutical rep. You're driving around. I'm the pizza guy. We can do multifamily part-time until we have enough units where we can scale out. So in 2011, Jake moves down to Tennessee. Didn't know where Knoxville was back then. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm in New York. I'm like, Knoxville? What's Knoxville? Is it in the United States? He gets down there. I whip out the loop net, and I'm like, dude, there's some deals here. Let's get together. It took us 18 months to find the first deal because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were just scaring off all the brokers. We didn't have credibility. But one broker took a chance on us. And after 18 months, we closed our first 25-unit deal. 3 months later, we closed a 36-unit deal. And 6 months after that, we got a 136-unit deal. And for us, back then, everyone's going to say, well, the prices back then were cheap. Oh, well, the prices back then were cheap because the economy sucked. Rents for a one-bedroom were $300. That same property we bought back in 2013, we still own it. The rents are over $1,100. So don't tell me that back then was the right time. It's always the right time if you are ready for it and if you're educated. Education times action equals results. And the last thing I'll say is I am the father of 6 kids from ages 24 to 9. So don't tell me you don't have the time to do this. Because if I can find the time, you live
in one of your multifamily properties, is that right? You got...
Yeah, well, I've got units all over the place here. I'm thinking long term, Mike. I'm getting my housing situated here as well too.
This is a reality. When I started in 2008, and in hindsight, like if you knew what you know now, that was what, 15, 16 years ago. And just like you started around the same time, there's so many things I would have done differently back then. I would have just been more bold. Of course, that's hindsight, right? The
Yes.
question are we going to be saying that 15 years from now about today? Right. And we could have a whole nother show about this. I won't get on this path, but the fact is the dollar is going to continue to be destroyed. There's no going back. There's no putting that toothpaste back in the tube. And so that's going to continue to cause inflation. And so even though it's a trying time now, rates are up and there's all sorts of weird stuff going on in the economy, I just don't see prices going down much. Like at the end of the day, the dollar is going to continue to be destroyed, and rents are going to go up. The price of food's going to go up. Everything's going to go up. Yes, it's going to cause a lot of strife in this country, but all these people still need a place to live, which is still going to create opportunity for folks like us at the end of the day.
We interviewed Dr. Peter Lindemann on our show about a year ago. Really smart economist. He's a guru. He's actually invests in real estate and is a really smart dude. And what he said to me changed my outlook on real estate. He said, buy real estate in 10-year increments. You're going to have 2 really good years, 2 really bad years, and 6 years so-so. When you have more of a time period, you're really taking the risk off the table. I think that's what we've done. The deal back in 2013, we were just lucky. The market was cycling up, but we bought it right. We're managing it right, and we're financing it right. And if anybody here is going to think that rents right now are $1,100 a month, 10 years from now are going to be at $1,100 a month, you're sorely mistaken. It's a basic human need. It's food, clothing, and apartments. And talking about demographics, there are more people renting than buying. Renting is actually cheaper. It's easier. So I think to us, the apartment space is only going to get more valuable as time goes on.
Yeah. And I think, at the end of the day, now there's all different classes of multifamily, right? And so my guess is you believe that what you just said more so about the B and C class properties than the A class properties, right? But I think, in most markets, affordable housing is a challenge, and the reality is multifamily is generally more affordable. Like people want more space, but at some point you have to ask the question: can you afford more space? And if you can't, you're going to have to go kind of downstream, if you will. That's just more budget conscious. And so, let's talk about kind of buying right in this market, because I think a lot of folks are on the sidelines. We did a really big deal here last month. $50 million purchase. But we're doing things different, right? We're like assuming cheaper debt, or we're getting the seller to finance part of it and do a carry back. And you just have to get more creative, whether it's single family or multifamily. Let's talk about buying multifamily right in this market.
The first thing that you need, in my opinion, to have a deal in real estate is you need a motivated seller. Whether you're buying something from a single family person or a multifamily. If you don't have to sell, then you're not going to sell. And over the last couple of years, there was no motivation to sell because your property keeps going up in value. You have nowhere to put your money. And it's pretty safe. It's pretty, the economy's okay. We're not having any wars. Well, fast forward to today. Interest rates are high. People are afraid. Wars are going on. There's a lot of stuff happening to the economy that's unsure. We're having more motivated sellers. The problem right now is that debt, the cost of capital, has gone up. So pricing has had to come down. And you said a couple of really important things in there. People are assuming loans. Loan assumptions are back on the table. Years ago, they would have laughed at you with a loan assumption because they just 3% debt. That's really cheap. Why are you going to assume a loan? Get your own loan. But loan assumptions. You also said seller carryback. I mean, seller financing is back on the table, boys, as they say in Lord of the Rings. We had our very first deal. We had 10% seller financing. We got our first deal this year in January. We had closed on 132 units. It was an $8.5 million purchase. We had a $450,000 seller finance note. That is really huge. And it's going to continue, because what happens is when debt becomes more difficult, we have to become more creative, whether it's seller financing, whether it's loan assumptions, unfortunately, you may have to bring more money to the deal as a down payment, but that's okay, because when rates come back down, you can refinance that money out. But let's always focus on the motivation of the seller and how are we solving that seller's problem, Mike.
And the seller has to be willing to get a little more creative too, right? That the market's just changed, right? So at the end of the day, and I think one of the things that I think, like on the multifamily side, when you're buying a property for 8, 10, $50 million, right? The sellers are a little more savvy. Like it's On the
Yes.
single family side, and the single family side is what I've done for 15 years. I also do multifamily stuff now too, obviously, but it's very emotional. These are like emotional decisions, right? On the multifamily side, it's way more cut and dry. It just is what it is. These are business decisions ultimately, right? And so it's a little bit easier to negotiate with sellers because they just want a deal structure that works for them. They may be unreasonable, but if they are unreasonable, it's just a matter of time before they have to get more reasonable or not sell.
Mike, you made a great point there. In the single family home side, you say there's more emotions. It's unfortunate because everybody listening to this, single family homes is a business. Extract the emotion out of it and start to implement systems in the business. And the same with multifamily. Fortunately for us, the 3 deals that we bought 2 deals this year, 130 units, 100 units in July, and we're closing on 96 units in December. They're all mom and pops. They don't know the value of their properties. They haven't raised, rental rates. The one we bought in January, rents were at 700 for twos and threes. We're at 1,200 right now. We've raised them because we own the property next door. So don't think in multifamily, it is cut and dry, but there's still a lot of unsophisticated sellers in there. You just need to know the value of the property. You need to know how to buy it right. And then obviously pull the repositioning through because it is a business. A lot of people want to just raise capital and they want to have the child and they want to go and have another child. Well, the child that you have now needs to be tended to, needs to be taken care of. And once you take care of that child, you grow the NOI, you're able to extract that value out of it through a refinance or through a sale. Always think of your exit strategy when you're buying a deal, but understand that it's a business. And those people, the guys who are doing, single family homes out there that are really crushing it. They're not looking at onesies and Tuesdays. They've got systems. They're looking at it as a business and how can I continue to develop my systems and how do I not be that I'm a guy, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but I'm going to get people to help me. It's the same thing in multifamily.
Yeah. It's interesting. I made this is what's going, this is what I see. Right. And I have a lot of people that are in my circles and stuff in the real estate space. And I saw the same thing that happened in 2008. Now the difference in 2008 and 2009 is I was new. So I wasn't looking like inward and like what's going on. I was just like hustling, right? But now looking in hindsight, like reflecting on what I saw then, and what I see now is there are, and this is, I'm saying this to hopefully motivate people. There's a ton of people that we had more competition in the good market. And it's because it was easy and everybody could do it. When something's easy, everybody will do it. When it gets hard, there's a bunch of people that leave, right? But the reality is if you have the right mindset for success, there is always a way in this business. And the time is right now for people that, you have to become a better operator. You have to get more principled. You have to create systems and processes like Gino mentioned. And there's opportunity everywhere. I mean, I just talked to Gino about how I've bitten off more than I could chew. There's opportunity everywhere right now. Part of it is because a lot of people ran away. And one thing that I'll say, that if you follow me on social media, I say things like this all the time, is that a lot of people that have left the industry or pulled back and they're going to sit on the sidelines, they often try to go get into something else that's easy, but there is nothing that is easy now that will never get hard. Like everything gets hard. So don't run away when things get hard. Just double down on getting better at the end of the day.
Well, let's talk about real quick for 30 seconds why things got easy. When the Fed has a policy of lower or 0% interest rates, there's a lot of speculation. Private equity came into real estate. Family offices came into it, and they bid it up. Now, you talked about the A assets. We don't like A assets only because we're trying to create some wealth. A assets are awesome when you're trying to preserve it. So understand your goals. I'm not going to buy an A asset brand new build unless I'm getting it for an amazing price, which I probably won't. So I'm not going to look at that space. I'm trying to create wealth, not really preserve it. But when you have that kind of environment, there's euphoria. Once the euphoria pulls back, and this is what we're seeing right now, operators aren't making their distributions. There's even capital calls going on. So what's going on is Gino's investors not getting paid on the deal he has right now. Gino can't raise for the next deal. I'm just making an example. I don't raise money, but that's what is happening. So there's, like you said, there's less demand. There are less operators and people who can bid on these assets. The less money or the less bidding that's going on, the more supply. It's just going to drop pricing. Just give it some time. Get into the space. Start making those connections right now. And you know what? It's great because brokers are calling you back. 2 years ago, they didn't need Mike and Gino because they could have just put a deal anywhere and it would have sold. Now they've got to do work. Now they're actually calling us back. They're texting us. They're emailing us. They're cold calling us. When was the last time I see open house signs all over the place here. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but we're thinking contrarianly where people are hitting the exits and they're a little bit afraid. Don't be afraid. Take a look around and assess the opportunities. There's always problems in any part of the market cycle. Seek the opportunities that lie in this part of the market cycle.
That's great. So I think people tend to be more transactional on the single family side. I mean, there's obviously people with portfolios. The multifamily side, you always have to have at least a 5-year vision, if not more, right? I mean, it tends to be more of a long-term focus. But whether it's single family or multifamily, that's where the wealth is really built. So let's talk about, a lot of my audience is on the single family side, and a lot of folks are very transactional, and they hear all the hype about making the quick buck and stuff like that, which is not me spreading that. And there is an opportunity to make a quick buck on the single family side. But let's talk about having this long-term focus. Now, guys like you and I have been around long enough to where we know, like, especially me, because I've flipped hundreds of houses and I kept some as rentals, but in hindsight, I wish I kept them all as rentals because we probably wouldn't be here right now, Gino. We'd have to run into each other on the beach or something. But that's what hindsight allows, is like you start to play a different game or want to play a different game. And I'm here to tell everybody, and I know you agree with this, is that the money is made, the real wealth is made over a long period of time, partly because inflation is inevitable, partly, right? And so let's just talk about that mindset of shifting from worrying about paying the bills today and creating long-term wealth.
It doesn't take that long. I mean, is 10 years or 6 years or 7 years a long time? It's just that we're not trained. And how we developed as humans, we always want that instant gratification, that quick hit. I just want to create a concept for the listeners right now. We have a concept called the conveyor belt. Just picture an imaginary conveyor belt in front of you and think of it as a 5-year, conveyor belt. On year 1, you buy an asset. Year 2, you buy another asset. So within the first 2 years, you have assets on here. You want these assets to matriculate and to continue to create value. And in real estate, you don't make money when you buy real estate. You make money when you sell real estate. Let me say that again. Everyone says you make money on the buy. You can make money on the buy because you're buying it right and you're getting some cash flow. But if it just sits there and there's equity, you're not really making any money. You need to extract that equity. And what you do with this conveyor belt, you want to continue to put deals on the conveyor belt. And what Mike should have done with those single family rentals that he should have sold them, pulled the equity out and bought a 10 unit. And then maybe pull that equity out and bought a 30 unit. It's not so much that the transactions, you just want to crystallize that equity at a certain point. And if you have a refinance, it's a basic loan to yourself. So you're not paying taxes on that loan. When we did our very first refinance, we refinanced at $164,000. Do you know how many freaking pizzas I need to make to net 160? I have to work over a year to do that. And we did that on one refinance net. I just pulled that money out and we put it into our third deal. That's exactly what I did. And you continued along the velocity of money. You want to velocitize that money. What happens with single families and fixes and flips, number one, they kill the goose. But number two, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And you're paying taxes on that money. Whereas what I ended up doing is I bought this property for $600,000 back in 2013. I still own it today. It's worth over $2.5 million. This one property that's 25 units. There's $500,000 of debt on that property. I've already refinanced out double what I put into it. And every month it's paying me between $8,000 and $10,000 a month in cash flow. And on top of that, I've gotten the cost segregation benefits over, the last 5 or 6 years. So if you put that all together, you don't have to do 3,000 units a year. If you can do 1 to 2 good deals per year, at the end of 3 or 4 years, you've stacked your conveyor belt with 6 or 7 assets that are doing really well. And that's why it takes a couple of years, 3 or 4 years, because that equity will begin to crystallize and you'll be able to pull that equity out and please reinvest it into the business. It took me 5 years to leave my restaurant because I'm like, I need to continue to reinvest the capital because at that point we had refinanced probably about $8 million out of the portfolio. I just put that money back into buying my next deal. And to date, we've done over $25 million in refinances. I don't drive a Lambo. I don't have 17 houses. The money just keeps going to buying more assets, keep buying more assets. And that's how you create true wealth, by paying less taxes, by owning these assets, by being able to force the appreciation with the market and with solid management and with having assets that yield a dividend. I'm getting cash flow every month. So you have the best of both worlds. So think of that conveyor belt. Next time you put a deal on there, be happy. You've got a deal. Let's work that deal. Keep it on there. And you stack another one. And then just try to think of it at 5 years. You're crystallizing that equity and turn that equity into cash flow.
Yeah, that's great. I think there's a couple things that you talked about there that I like is like whatever you think you want, whether it's a Lambo or something else. I mean, people do that, right? But at the end of the day, in my experience, there are things that I want. Like when I get to this level, I'm going to buy this. And I got to that level and I was like, why would I waste my money on that? I want to put it back into the business, right? So what's really cool is when you can afford those, when you get to a point where you can afford those toys, but you just don't want them because you understand plowing that back into the business. And by the way, you know, not sacrificing your quality of life because you can still do a lot of great things. You just don't have to waste it on things that probably are, you know, not worth the money or time or whatever. You just need a brother. You need a brother-in-law with a Lambo or a boat or whatever, right? So you can just like, hey, let me drive this for an hour. You're like, okay, I got it out of my system.
Mike, can I just mention one thing real quick? And I think we had talked about this before air. What you're really referring to is your psychology of money. It's your relationship with money and understanding the neurochemicals in your brain. You don't want the Lambo. You don't want the boat. You want the feeling that thing gives you. And when you're younger, you get the hit. That's why social media is so addicting. You get on there, you want the likes and you want that instant gratification. There's serotonin because all of a sudden you've got the Lambo, you feel really good, you feel important. You know, you've got the dopamine hit, you've got the oxytocin going on. You have all these neurochemicals, understanding the relationship with money. I was just fortunate that my mom made me a saver. That was my default. I was able to save all the money that I made. But conversely, I didn't really enjoy it. So it's a pro and a con. So read the book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, because you need to understand the relationship that you have with money. And if your relationship is one where mine was scarcity, I couldn't even enjoy what I was making. So it was easy for me to create wealth. But if you're the one out there who likes the instant gratification and likes the most recent toy, just sit down, Google neurochemistry, see what happens in your brain. Because really what you're trying to do is you're trying to elicit a feeling. And when the Lambo's over, well, what's the next thing? A vacation. When that's over, then it's a laptop. And you go down that rabbit hole. And the feeling that I like is now that I can afford these things, it's a better feeling that I can afford them and not want them than have to buy them to make myself feel better. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned a few things here, like the, you know, just social media and the way that things make you feel. Because I think one thing that hurts a lot of people, and it could inspire you too, but there's a good and a bad side, is trying to build something or get started in real estate or get to the next level or whatever based on what you've seen other people do, right? At the end of the day, I think a lot of people get hung up on trying to be like somebody else instead of their own goals. And what happens is, and by the way, the being like somebody else, we just see the good side of their life, right? Not all the, I mean, yeah, this guy's got a Lambo, but his relationship with his family has fallen apart. Nobody wants that, but that's not getting posted on social media, right? So let's talk about this idea of really focusing on what's important to you and your goals for you and or your family, and not worrying about being like somebody else necessarily, because it's bad in this industry, right?
I had a podcast with Brad Lee about 6 months ago, and he introduced a word to me, allodoxophobia. I said, Brad, I have no idea what the hell that means. He basically said it's the fear of what other people think about you. And I was asking him about social media. My hair doesn't look good. The lighting is not good. I may sound stupid. Don't worry about what other people think or what other people feel about you, because that will hold you back. And listen, we're all a testament to that. But that's one of those things. Don't keep up with the Joneses, because you're not the Joneses. You're Mike and I'm Gino. We all have different journeys. We all have different paths. We all have different starting points. I mean, Mike may be a trust fund baby who's got $17 million in the bank. I'm starting from scratch. So how can I compete with Mike? And why would I want to compete with Mike? Because Mike's got different goals and different gifts and different talents than I do. I think we need to get crystal clear on what we want. When I was at the restaurant, I could tell you what I didn't want. I didn't want to be there. I hated it. But when you say, Gino, what do you want? I really wasn't clear on that. What I ultimately wanted was to have a great business with employees, to be able to create some type of financial freedoms for myself, to have that autonomy. that Morgan Housel talks about in The Psychology of Money. That autonomy is what people, I think, strive for, because that's part of happiness. When I can be on a podcast with Mike at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, I have the chance to say yes or no. The more optionality that I have, that gives me the freedom to do what I want. That's what we're trying to accomplish through, becoming financially free through real estate, through creating the wealth. And when you get the wealth, you think you're going to quit and go on a beach or go on a yacht. You've worked so hard. You've finally gotten good at something. You enjoy what you're doing. You're not going to give it up. You're going to be like Mike and bite off more things and do more stuff, because you're like, wow, this is really a game. I'm not chasing money. I'm chasing opportunity. I'm chasing freedom. I'm chasing fun. And then if I become real good at it, the money's going to follow. The money is just the result. That's what I've learned over the last 7 or 8 years. I wish somebody had tapped me on the shoulder and really told me that. And man, I would have been like, damn, I'm chasing the wrong thing. I'm not chasing value. I'm not chasing opportunity. I'm chasing these dollar bills. And that was, for me, the epiphany. And as far as social media goes, it's a hard one for me, because we all look at it. Use social media to see what other people are doing. Mirror what they're doing. See how their videos are done, how they look, how they're posting their videos, what content they're doing. Use that, but use your own voice. Become transparent. Become your authentic self. And don't worry how you feel, because it's scary, but it's okay. If you come from an authentic place and you truly try to provide value, when it's purpose over popularity and you have purpose, you will ultimately become popular. But you need to be like Mike and be in it for years. Mike wasn't an overnight sensation. He just told me that he's been doing it for 10 years. So if you do a few videos and you crap out, it's okay. Give yourself some time. Lean into your purpose. Lean into your why. You will get better. And over time, you will become ultimately more popular.
Yeah, you can't fail if you play the long game in anything, real estate, podcast, whatever, right? You just, because you fail, but failure is not final, right? If you're not willing to quit, then ultimately you're not a failure, right? You just have to keep going. And I think it's a problem with a lot of people these days because of that immediate gratification. And I kind of make this joke of like, every day it's Christmas at my house because of Amazon, because I just get that immediate gratification.
You too.
I can have an idea and order something like right now, and I'm in a large enough market to where some stuff comes the same day, or like I wake up in the morning and it's already there. It's crazy, right? But that's the problem is some people want to do that in other areas of their life, and you can't, you just can't have that. You have to go through the failures and the trials and the heartache and the sleepless nights and all that to get to some point. And then the reality is you're so much stronger of an entrepreneur and a person from being through those things that, like success kind of falls in your lap, right? It's like, must be nice that you succeed. Like somebody's told me before, it's like, seems like everything you touch turns to gold. And I was like, yeah, it's easy for it to look that way, but I promise you that is not the case. Like you haven't seen all the piles of shit that I've touched either, right? Or turned into, or so.
Mike, let me ask you a question. Yeah. Was it when you were growing? For me, I was fortunate that I had a partner, Jake, and I didn't do this on myself, because I was on a call with him last night. I was bitching and moaning about a problem I had, because being an entrepreneur, it's lonely. And sometimes like, who are you talking to? Your wife? She can't relate to me making a big mistake and going, I mean, like, I think partnerships are so important. They're so invaluable in having that. What is your experience with that? Does that help you when you're having a tough time, when you're going through a rough patch and you can't see things clearly?
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously I run one of the largest masterminds in the country for professional real estate investors. Almost everything I do now, from a few years back forward, like I don't have any businesses, all the multifamily syndication, the big deals I've done over the past 5 years, which is probably about 10 or 12 deals. Like everything I do now is some sort of collaboration or partnership.
Yes.
Because I've gotten to the point now to where honestly, I get a little comfortable if it's just me, or I get a little complacent, and it fuels me to have a partner because one, we lift each other up. We bounce ideas off each other and make them better. And the reality is just more fun. Business is just more fun doing it with people. Now you need to pick the right partner. But I think doing things together with other people is great. And as is, one of the things I wanted to mention, you said a moment ago about, I wish somebody had tapped me on the shoulder and told me something, is I know that you and I are both big believers in coaching. Like we are coaches and we help people, but also I'm not afraid to hire coaches or advisors or spend money on knowledge or whatever it is now, because you want to be smart about it. But if I can get somewhere in a fraction of the time that it would take me to go learn all those lessons myself and possibly give up in the process, like, I'm game for it. It's just a business decision for me at this point. So what are your thoughts on the power of kind of, and the importance of coaching?
Let me give everybody an analogy here. When you're going into a forest, do you want the map before you go into the forest, or do you want to go into the forest and get the map? When I started before Jake, I always call it life before Jake. I didn't have a process. I didn't have a map. So I was buying deals. I was in single family. I did a little multifamily. I did a mobile home park. I was all over the place. I didn't have the buy right, the manage right, the finance right. In 2008, when I read T. Harv Eker's book, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, everything changed for me. It was the long-termism. It was the fruits of your roots. And all of a sudden I realized, man, investing in my education was an investment. It wasn't an expense. And I think early on, I have to pay for education. Well, when we go to college, kids are paying 70 grand a year to go to a crappy school. They're paying 300 grand to get a degree, to go get a job. We can't spend 20 or 30 grand for a mastermind or for a program that's going to teach us one technique that may make us $500,000. That's the twisted part. You have to understand the abundance mindset, the fact that if you invest in your education, you will constantly have that. And not even that, the people that you surround yourself within these communities is invaluable, because if I need something, or I want to podcast Kim Kiyosaki, I can reach out to Matt Andrews and say, hey, Matt, can you get Kim on my podcast? For an example, I would never be able to have that opportunity, but investing in his program and investing in his group, I've met so many amazing people. So if you're out there saying to yourself, I don't need this, I can do this by myself, it's going to take you a lot longer. You're going to make a lot more mistakes, and you're going to be really, really frustrated at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is short-sighted, and I think it's hard in real estate investing because a lot of us are kind of what I'll call frugal, value-based, or just flat out cheap, right? We want to buy stuff cheap. I want cheap contractors. Where can I get the cheapest tile in town? Like, we tend to have that in us. And I've given a couple presentations here lately to some of my groups about, where you don't want to cheap out on is investing in yourself, because for most of us, that is the best investment you've ever made. Anything you invest in yourself comes back 10, 20, 100-fold, right? And in your team, honestly. And I've been, I've hired people before that were the wrong people, but they didn't expect a lot or whatever. And those are the results you get. And, we just hired somebody that I paid, I don't know, and I'm not even going to say the number.
A lot of money, right?
I hired somebody that just accepted an offer yesterday at one of my companies that literally his salary, not including all the bonuses, is 10x what my first salary out of college was at my job. But it's a high level executive that we expect to take us to the next level. And so I think it's not all about paying the most, but it's about really hiring really good talent, whether it's on your team or a coach, right? Just to kind of get you to the next level, or people that you outsource things to, like, just pay for better quality stuff, because in this business, the fringe is where you make your money at. It's like everybody, you don't have to be 10 times better than Gino to be successful, but if you can find a way to be 5% better or do things just a little bit better here and there, the returns are just exponential. And that's not just this business, it's like anywhere, right?
That's a great point.
Yeah. Well, Gino, hey, great spending time with you, buddy. It's really good to see you. I saw you here recently, and I was on you guys' podcast a couple of years back. Glad I could finally get you here.
Mike, it's been a great journey. I mean, think about where you were in 2013. You launched your podcast. You were still doing single families. You were flipping. The education was started, because FlipNerd was one of the first websites that came up. It was really a cool name. And I'm like, I wish I was doing single family homes. But from there, transitioning into owning multiple businesses, you're doing syndications and multifamily. I mean, it's been a great journey. So for those of you out there, you may say 10 years is such a long time. We overestimate what we can do in 1 year. We underestimate what we can do in 5 years. Make it a 3-year plan. Make it a 1-year plan. Start chunking it down. Start with the end in mind. Where do you want to be in 10 years? And then reverse engineer that to where you are today, and start taking the steps to get there.
Yeah. And know it's not a straight line, right? You're going to fail and be all over the place, and you're going to pivot and change your mind. And that's fine. You just have to keep moving forward, right?
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Mike. I appreciate it.
Gino, hey, if folks want to connect with you, You guys have amazing content that you put out. You've got a lot of great information. Where should they go?
Just go to jakeandgino.com. You'll see the podcasts on there. If you want to, learn real estate, right behind me, you'll see how to in multifamily. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got Instagram. We've got a Facebook page. So just go to jakeandgino.com.
Awesome. We'll add a link down below in the show notes. And everybody, hope you got some great value from today. Really appreciate you following me along with this journey for the next 10 years. I actually do have a couple of other podcasts. We do a lot of stuff under the Investor Fuel podcast brand as well now. Where I interview members of my mastermind, which are a lot of experts. So lots of great knowledge over there too. Check that one out if you haven't already. But Gino, thanks again. Great to see you, buddy. Looking forward to hanging out more in the year ahead. I guess we're kind of coming up on New Year here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, brother.
Everybody, thanks again. See you on the next show. Thanks for listening to today's show. There are 3 ways I can help you start or grow your real estate investing business. If you're a new investor and just getting started, the FlipNerd Investor Coaching Program is the most effective program in America. I've been coaching and mentoring new real estate investors for 10 years, and my students have literally purchased thousands and thousands of properties. Many of them started with little to no experience at all. Our program is a paint-by-numbers program where we tell you exactly what to do week by week to make sure that you don't get distracted on your way to results. We show you how to build a real business, not just create another job for yourself. New memberships are limited. You can learn more and apply or schedule a call with me and my team at flipnerd.com/coaching. If you're an experienced investor doing a minimum of 10 deals a year, up to 500 deals a year or more, or have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio already, you should check out our powerful Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. Over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors are members, and it's not uncommon for our members to 2 to 5x their business just from getting around other members at Investor Fuel. At Investor Fuel, each of us are business advisors to one another's businesses, but we don't stop at business. We focus heavily on becoming better people and living fuller lives. If you're looking for fuel for your business or fuel for your life, please check out investorfuel.com. Applications and interviews are required as most investors are not a fit for our community. Please learn more at investorfuel.com. If you're not ready for coaching or masterminds but eager to start learning more about investing, please join our private Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/Facebook. New members get access to free training from us right here at flipnerd.com, and it's a community to safely ask your questions, a great place to get started. Simply go to flipnerd.com/Facebook to request your access today.